What? Huh? Morning. Afternoon. My age doesn't really matter anymore because you quit paying attention to time. Instead, you talk about eating enough prunes and whitening your teeth every morning and stuff like that.
You might be a little surprised at my surroundings. Probably asking yourself, why would the president of a wildly successful company like Gateway, that employs over 3 million people with 37 manufacturing sites worldwide, net sales last year of $7 gajillion, be sitting on a ramshackle old porch with a dog that smells like the back end of a mule? Well, you see, me and old Rufus here are just country boys at heart. Sometimes we like to get away from the hustle and bustle of Gateway and come out to my country home. Real beaut, ain't it? We were just looking through my old scrapbook here. Wanna see? It's got all kinds of pictures and stuff about back when I started Gateway 60 years ago. Here, let me show you. It all started back in September of 1985. That year, Tina Turner had a big hit with What's Love Got to Do with It? And the movie Out of Africa was the big Oscar winner. And I had this harebrained idea about selling computer stuff. Back then, programming a VCR was a big deal, so nobody ever really thought much about computers, especially in the home. I started the company with Hammer. What was his real name anyway? Hambone, ham, hocks, ham and cheese, Hammond, that was it, something like that. Back then we went by Max Wheeler and Easy Ed Zimmerman, the very first Gateway stage names. Anyway, by the end of the year we had 2 employees, just me and old Hammerhead. Total sales of $100,000. About the cost of a pack of cigarettes now, but we knew we were doing something right. 1986, they made a big deal over the Hands Across America, which was followed by a less successful Hands Across the Pacific later that summer. Remember that song, We Are the World? That was a big deal then, too. It was still mostly just the 2 of us working out of the old farmhouse. But in April, we moved into the Livestock Exchange building in Sioux City, and then my brother Norm joined the company. Boy, we were really moving up then. That year, we started to sell and build our own brand of computer, the Gateway 2000 XT8088. That sold for $14.95. Things were really looking up for us as our total sales jumped to $1 million. There was some good news and some bad news in 1987. The bad news was the stock exchange crash, closing down over 500 points. The second piece of bad news was that the New York Giants won the Super Bowl. I hate the Giants. But the good news more than made up for the bad news. First, there was still just a few of us, so I could remember everyone's name. Second, sales kept growing to $1.5 million by the end of 1987. 1988 was the year that marked the kind of growth we'd become accustomed to. Ain't that right, Rufus? 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 Good dog. I gotta quit feeding you pizza and beer for breakfast. We placed our first national ad about the time that the Washington Redskins won the Super Bowl in 1988, and sales really took off. I think it must have been the cows. Just look at those rascals. How can you not like a cow? We started selling our 386 SX systems in 1988. Talk about speed demons. They had 2 whole megabytes of RAM and a 40 megabyte drive. State of the art. Boy, we've really come a long ways. We also outgrew our home in the Livestock Exchange building. And in September, we moved into this building in Sergeant Bluff. By the end of the year, we had 33 employees and reached $11.7 million in sales. Don't Worry, Be Happy was the song of the year in 1989. Pretty obnoxious song, but it pretty much summed up our attitude at Gateway. Things were going like gangbusters back then.
Don't worry, be happy.
Needless to say, in 1989, we were outstanding in our field. We shipped our first 46 systems in May of that year, too. In July of 1989, we started planning our new building across the river into South Dakota. We had to have some place to put all of our employees. We're at 176 by the end of the year. And sales had jumped over 70 million by that time as well. Although 1990 was a great year for Gateway, it was a bad one for the rest of the world. We got caught up in the Gulf War and Desert Storm, and the Exxon Juan Valdez ran aground off the coast of Alaska. For Gateway, we found a new home in South Dakota, and as we cut the ribbon on the building, we announced that we were expanding again. Boy, we were going fast in those days. Our total number of employees reached 600, with sales skyrocketing to, get this, over $275 million. We were growing so fast that in December of 1990, Inc. magazine rated Gateway 2000, as we were called back then, the second fastest growing private company in America. That was the year when our national advertising started using the fun and goofy and silly and crazy wild themes that we're still known for today, like this old saloon ad.